The reason I've done this, especially at this time of year, is because lots of people are coming to the end of their counselling courses. A lot of people are qualifying or about to qualify at the moment. And it's sort of the bit that you don't get taught. You spend hours and hours and hours learning how to counsel people, therapize people, whatever you want to call it, but they don't tell you how to run a business. And often a lot of people are coming to this industry either still employed or have been employed and have no idea how to set up a business and run a business, which essentially is what you need to do to be working in private practice. So this is really a sort of whistle-stop tour of the types of things that you need to think about when you're setting up your private practice, because ultimately counselling jobs that are out there are low paid, they're badly paid, and a lot of people will want to enhance their income by having even like a couple of clients here and there, and it's just making sure that you've got as much as you need tied up so that you're not missing out on anything, essentially, and that you know you're doing things ethically and legally. And this is just a whistle-stop tour to try and describe the types of things that you need to be thinking about. So firstly, I want to know from you guys and you can type it in the chat box, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to setting up in private practice? I'm going to have to stop the share to be able to read it. I didn't think this through. You wouldn't get this with a Facebook Live. Or you can unmute yourself and you can tell me if you wish to. You can do either. Getting clients. It's the biggest one. It's very real, Paul. Anyone else? Or are we all decide, oh, confidence, knowing how to market myself. Yep, absolutely. Finding clients, how to advertise. Fear, Emma. Fear of what? What are you afraid of? Sorry, Emma, go on. What are you afraid of? I'm sure you're not the only one. Not getting it right. What's right?
Not being good enough. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Good enough.
All of the above.
Yeah, okay. These are all standard, and I felt every single one of these when I started. Hi, Diane. When I started my private practice, I felt every single one of these, and there are ways around it, and the way really around it is just getting started, which I know sounds really, really easy, but that is essentially the truth. So who am I anyway? Who am I to be talking to you about this? What reason am I here talking to you about this right now? So essentially, I am a counsellor. I'm soon to be able to call myself a psychotherapist in about another, 4 or 5 days, something like that. And I'm also a business coach as well. My modality that I study is transaction analysis, which many of you here will have heard of, whether you're within transaction analysis or another modality. That's the one that I'm sort of my basis is in. And I work in private practice. I've had my private practice for about 1.5 years, something like that now. And I am also I work in the perinatal counselling service for the NHS. So until literally like now, I've been a volunteer counsellor, and I'm just currently going through the recruitment to take on the counselling coordinator job. So I'm going to be running those two things side by side with one another. My private practice is about maxed out to where I want it to be at the moment, and that is in terms of me being happy with my state of mind, really, finding myself quite balanced with the amount of clients that I have on. So I have 12 weekly clients, and then I have some fortnightly clients, and then I have some coaching clients as well. And so I see about 15 clients a week, something like that, which is about my happy maximum. It's about my sweet spot. It took me a while to realize that. I sort of dipped into sort of 18 clients at one point and went, it's too much, and I'm too tired at the end of the week. And So as I could, I sort of reduced it back down again. My background, I was an interior designer for 15 years. And I have owned a business in one way or another since 2007. So the last PAYE job I properly had, properly had, was in 2006. I'm also an introvert, which I think is relevant in this space, because just because I'm sitting here putting on a workshop for you doesn't mean that this is a really comfortable space for me. It's not. It's well out of my comfort zone. I am an introvert, and I'm also a recovering perfectionist as well, is what I call myself on my website, because I was a perfectionist for years and years and years, and it held me back a lot. And so I have worked really hard on that over 4 years of therapy, and I now call myself a recovering perfectionist. Still work in progress. So that's who I am. Today, what we're going to cover is getting started with your private practice, really, just getting your foot out of the blocks. We're going to look at 10 steps before you start seeing a client, just to make sure that you've got things put in place, the real things that you need to be thinking about, not the things that would be nice to have, but the actual needy things. 10 ways to find clients. And I'm going to look at how you can remove low income months, what to expect from your first year in private practice. I'm going to sort of go over, I suppose, things that you need to get clear on to make a start, my top tips, and then we're going to go into a Q&A, and all of that is going to be in the next hour. If you want me to stop at any slide because you want to take a screenshot of it, if you know how to do that, just let me know. Or if you want the slides afterwards, just let me know and I can send them across to you as well, in like a PDF or something. Okay. So in terms of getting started, the first thing, which is the most important thing, and I want you to carry this right the way through this next hour, is you already know enough to make a start. You already know enough. You don't need to go and learn more stuff. You've got it in you. I believe you've got it in you. I want you to plan, and this number might look a bit scary to you, but I would like you to plan on 50% client work, 50% business. And I think that might come as a bit of a shock to some of you, because I think the way I thought about this was that I would do most of my client work, and every so often I might post something on social media, and that was that. And actually, if you are wanting to run this as a business and this is your main source of income, you need to be working harder on the business side of things. You need to be keeping on top of your accounts, your invoicing, if you're doing invoicing, checking on who's paid, who hasn't paid, and chasing that up, which invariably we do have to do. Hopefully not with all clients. I only have one that I do that with. You need to be, what did I say already? Marketing. You need to be networking with people, but in the way that suits you. So you need to be spending time on your business, not just in your business and with your clients. It's really, really important that you know your numbers, and this is where that 50% business thing comes from. So some things that are really important in terms of knowing your numbers are things like noting down where you gain most of your clients from. Are they coming from referrals? Are they coming from social media? Do you have people who are seeing flyers that you've got in your local village hall and they're calling you from that? So you make sure that every single person that contacts you, you ask them how they found out about you. And you note that down, and you make a note of it, and you keep a tally almost. It can be that simple as a tally on a post-it, if you like, of knowing where your contacts are coming from. You also want to know how many clients you need to be able to create the income that you need every month. What are you going to be charging, and how many of those do you need to have every single week in your business and every month, to know whether you're making enough of an income or not? And then what can you do about that? Do you need to take on more clients? Do you need to up your hourly rate? There's things you can do but you need to know whether what you're asking for is enough. You want to learn how many sessions your clients stay with you on average. It means that you can pick up the marketing when you feel like clients may be coming towards the end of their sessions. If you know that you've got, like, if clients stay with you on an average of like 20 odd sessions, and you know that you've got clients coming up at that point, you might need to up your marketing a little bit to make sure that you've got new clients coming to your business. And it'll be less of a surprise, and you'll remove those low income months that I mentioned at the beginning that we'll come up against later. Learn how many clients on average cancel per week, because if you've got like half of your clients are cancelling every week and they're cancelling outside of your like payment time, so they're like, I don't know, mine's a 24-hour cancellation policy, but if they're cancelling outside of that, obviously you're not getting that income for that client session. So it's really important to know how many clients of yours are cancelling on a weekly basis, because invariably they do. And what can you do to compensate for that? Do you take on an extra client even though you feel like you're at your maximum, because you can almost guarantee that one client a week is going to cancel, if you see what I mean? And learn your conversion statistics as well. How many contacts does it take to schedule one connection call if you offer connection calls? And then how many connection calls does it take to turn into a client? Those are the types of numbers that you should know pretty much off by heart. And you should know it at all times, because they're really, really important numbers to understand. You're running a business. Going to be less of a surprise as you get further along if you can rely on your data. This is a big one. This next one, giving up or not starting is the only way you can fail. You literally cannot fail at this business unless you stop trying. It's the type of thing we probably say to our kids. If you've got kids, I probably say it to my kids all the time, that the only way that they can fail is if they actually stop trying or give up. And honestly, the only thing that is going to make you stop trying is your mindset. It's the only thing that is getting in your way. When we're talking about failing to do, like fear of failure or not getting fit, don't worry, these are my roofers behind me, just ignore them. At least I mentioned that they were going to be there. It's brilliant. You couldn't write it, honestly. Where was I? No idea. They took me by surprise. Mindset is the only thing that's getting in your way. If you hide behind being busy and doing things that aren't income making, then it's not a business, it's a hobby. And a hobby is not going to keep a roof over your head. And essentially, you need to take your therapy hat off sometimes and get past the fact that you're doing this because you want to help people, and you want to put a sales head on of, I actually need paying clients coming into my business, and I need to be charging them a realistic amount so that I can stay living in a home and putting food on the table and buying things, essentially. I hate sales. I don't like talking about sales. I hate sales and I hate marketing. There are ways that you can find that you can do this your way. You don't have to suddenly like make hundreds of cold calls. That's like my worst nightmare. And I've never done that in this business. I hate doing it. It doesn't work for me. That's not what I mean. But you need to really think about what it is you offer and sell that to people by having conversations. The trouble with counselling, I think, as a career, is that in our training, we give up so much of our time for free that we get used to not charging for the time. And it gets us into the mindset that we shouldn't be charging for our time. And it takes a real leap to begin charging that hourly rate. And there are ways to do that that will sit better with you. It could be that you start off with a number that you feel is a bit too low and see where you're at with it, and you increase it incrementally as you take on new clients. I started off, this was actually with my coaching business rather than my counselling business, because I was a qualified coach before I was a qualified counsellor. But I started off with a really quite a low hourly rate for coaching, because I just needed to get used to it. And I used the power of 3. So I took on 3 clients at that hourly rate. And once I knew that it was okay and that I was doing a good job, and that people were paying for my time, so I was doing something worthwhile, I then increased that hourly rate for the next client that I took on. And I stayed at that for 3 clients, and I increased it and increased it. And you get used to it really, really quickly. It's one way to do it, if that works for you. I should have shut the curtains behind me, shouldn't I? Essentially, you need to stop making excuses, and make a start. Literally, just make a start. You don't have to have it all perfect right from the very beginning. It doesn't need to be perfect. It never will be perfect. I'm telling myself this as much as I'm telling you. You just need to make a start. Just get started. Get out there. So we're going to move on to the 10 steps to take before seeing a client, just so that you know that you've got the sort of legalities wrapped up, basically. Firstly, you need to check that you're allowed. You need to check with your training provider that they are happy for you to start seeing private clients. With my course, we needed at least 100 hours. I think that was right. 100, I can't remember now. I think it was at least 100 client hours under our belt, supervised client hours. And then I checked with my supervisor. They were happy for me to set up a private practice. They confirmed that to me, and I started. I literally just sort of flung my doors open, not literally, kind of figuratively. You want to choose a name. Don't overthink it. Okay, so mine's called Home of Eunoia now. That came from the back of me offering more than just counselling and more than coaching. It was more of an umbrella term of what I want it to be and want to create. And I didn't want to minimize what I could be offering, essentially. My first business in this realm was called Jill May Coaching, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't overthink it. And my email address was like jillmay.coach@gmail.com. It came from nowhere. It was temporary. I moved on from it. You don't have to. Nobody is expecting you to have an all singing, all dancing. This is a really creative name. This is a private email address and my website and all of that. Nobody cares. Literally nobody cares. What they want to know is that you can help them. They don't care whether you've got a Gmail email address or a something else email address. Nobody's bothered. You need to get over that bit of it and just set it up. You can change it later. It's not that complicated. I've done it once, and then I've also changed from a sole trader to a limited in like a year and a half. I've done both of those things. It really wasn't a big deal. None of my clients had any issue with it. It's just logistics, essentially, at the end of the day. You want to choose a location. So you might find that to keep costs down at the minute, you have somewhere that you could work from home. I work out of my conservatory, which is where I'm sitting now. This is also my therapy room here. And I did that because I had the space. I was very fortunate that I had the space. You could also work it online. I started off when I was coaching, and I was sitting, my laptop was balanced on top of my jewelry box on top of a side table in my sort of like wardrobe dressing area upstairs, and I had a curtain pulled across the clothes. That's where I started seeing clients, coaching clients. It doesn't have to be super professional. If you can at least get a backdrop that doesn't have roofers in it, you'd be doing fine. You could rent a room. I also rented a room in my first year in private practice. I was working with a refuge actually in my local town, and a lot of the women in the refuge didn't have a car. And where I live is out in the middle of the countryside. You can get here by bus, But essentially, I just wanted to make it easy for people to come and see me. And as I was working with the refuge, I couldn't go to the refuge because you weren't really allowed to know where they lived. But I rented a room in my local town that they could walk to. I rented it by the hour. It was really, really super simple. And I'm trying to remember where I got it from. I think it was called like uktherapyrooms.com, and I found it on that and just went to view it. It was so easy, and mine was really cheap. It was like £13 an hour, something like that. There's different ways you can do it. You can rent them for like half days and full days. I wanted to rent it on an hour by hour basis, mainly because those clients were quite rubbish at showing up. But I asked for 24 hours notice if they weren't going to, and when they cancelled, I would cancel the room rental and I didn't have to pay for it, so it didn't cost me anything. So that's something to keep in mind. I actually don't do that anymore. I'm not, well, I've got one of those clients came over from the refuge to me privately, and I'm still seeing her, but she has a car and she drives to my house now. But otherwise, the refuge lost its funding, which is a massive shame, because it was amazing work, but such is life. And now I don't need the room anymore. So and literally, if I didn't book it in, I didn't need to use it. I didn't need to give any notice. It was all good. So you want to keep things as simple as possible. One thing you absolutely must do is register with the ICO. It's to do with data protection legislation that came in about GDPR back in 2018. And you basically have to pay the ICO to basically say that you are keeping people's information. I ask for very, very little information from people, but even their name, their contact details and their addresses and like next of kin, maybe the doctor's surgery, that type of thing is enough that you need to pay the ICO. This is one of the most important things, and it's something which doesn't get publicized too much. It's dead easy. You literally, I can't remember the website off the top of my head. On my notes, I've got all of the links, but that's not very useful for you because it's not on there. Click on, go onto ICO. I think it's like ICO.org or something, and it's, you just put in ICO data protection. You have to do it yearly. I think it costs about 40 quid a year, but £35 a year if you pay on direct debit, which I do, so it just does it automatically every year. You have to have that. If you're going to start seeing any clients and withholding any client information. That's one of the first things I would do, but I've put it as number 5 on here, so interesting. You have to get business insurance. You want public liability insurance. You also, if you are working from home, you need to let your home insurers know that clients are going to be coming to your house. Again, is something which a lot of people forget to do. I forgot to do it for about 9 months, I think, something like that. And then I suddenly realised that I hadn't told my home insurance. Once it came up, I was like, oh, actually, there's clients coming to my house and I haven't told them, just in case, like, I don't know, one of my clients falls down my steps or something and sues me. So they're not suing me about the work, but they're suing me about an injury that they incurred at my house, if you see what I mean. So that's really important. You want to write a basic contract or agreement to have with your clients because you don't want to start any work without one. You can join like Facebook groups and all sorts of things, and you could literally, people ask all the time if they can share if someone will share their contract with them. I have a template that I have created, so I'll get to that bit in a minute. I've got basically an admin pack that I've created just in case anyone's interested in that I'll explain later, and the contract or agreement is part of that. You want to open a bank account. Now this one's slightly controversial. I have, given the fact that I've owned a business since 2007, until about 6 months ago, I have never had a business bank account. I had a personal bank account that I used only for my business stuff. Yeah, so I opened a business bank account, and actually I've opened that. Mine's with Starling, but you've got like Revolut, is it Revolut? I think it's Revolut. That's one of the best ones as well now. They're online banks and they charge no fees. So that's what I've swapped to now, and I kind of wish I'd done it earlier. I actually find Starling, it was so easy to do once they'd got all your ID and stuff like that through. It was really easy to do. So if you can do it for free, why would you not? But I was trying to keep my costs down for years and years and years, and so I just used the personal bank account. Anyway, not anymore. Supervisor, this one's fairly standard. You've probably got one already, given the fact that you have to secure a supervisor for any of your clinical work. So make sure you secure a supervisor, probably in the modality that you have trained in, and also somebody that covers the types of clients that you're going to see. So if you start seeing couples, for instance, and you've got a supervisor who doesn't see couples, you probably want a second supervisor, one who does see couples, who you might see less often. But make sure the supervisor that you choose, one, you can talk to them. A lot of the time we get given the supervisors and actually we don't trust them. You don't have to stay with those supervisors. Find one that you like and that you trust, and maybe in a similar way of working as you have. And number 10, which is something I need to do, and I'm going to have a sip of my tea in a minute, is take a breath. After you've done all of these things, just take a breath and give yourself a minute. You don't need to rush into all of this. But those things, literally, if you do 9 of those things and then you breathe and wait a minute and maybe do a bit of your business stuff, you're likely to start seeing clients. That is literally all you need to do to make a start. So when you make a start, you need clients, because without clients, you don't have a business. Hang on a minute. I am actually going to have a drink of coffee. And what I might do, because I've noticed there are some questions. Should I just check on them for a minute? Just in case they are. Do you recommend a public, for insurance, Natalie? Yeah, so mine's with Westminster, who are brilliant. And every time I change anything in terms of my business, so like I started off, it was coaching, then I added counselling in, and then I added psychotherapy in. You literally just go onto the account online, and you can update it and start adding more and more and more stuff in. And they don't charge you anything for making changes to it, which was really important for me. Oxygen's another one. Holistics, another one. A load of people use Holistics. Paul, you're with, is it Balins? Is that what you said? Balins. Never heard of them. Alison, bang on. Monzo. That was the one I was trying to remember. You've got those 3. Resolute, Starling, Monzo are like the 3 big ones. Paul, limited company versus sole trader. This is limited company versus sole trader. It's totally up to you. Sole trader's easy. You don't really need to do anything. You just make a start. And as long as you've got your tax return in by the 31st of January, which is a really straightforward tax return. It's literally money in, money out. You put it all in one single thing on HMRC and they calculate your tax for you. It's so easy. I've done my own tax returns for years and years and years. The main reason I changed to a limited company was because, why did I change? Do you know what? I'll tell you the honest reason that I changed. My husband changed his accountant and I happened to go and have a chat with them. We were chatting to them about pensions and mortgages and blah, blah, blah at the same time. And he said to me, are you a sole trader? What do you do? And I was like, yeah, I'm a sole trader. I'm perfectly happy with it. And he said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a counsellor. And he was like, oh my God, you're like the one person that I would say be a limited company, because it means that if anyone sues you for anything, you are not personally liable. The company is liable and they can't come for you individually. Being a sole trader, if you get sued, you are being sued as a person rather than a business. And I go more into this in the program that I sell for people setting up in private practice, which is not what today's about. But the downside of being a limited company is that you have to pay an accountant, because you have to pay corporation tax and you have to pay personal tax as well. It probably doesn't work out that much different apart from your accountant's fees. And luckily my accountant was like, your business is so little that I'll just charge you this. And then we agreed on an annual rate, and then my business got bigger and I was like, oh, whoops, well, this is what we agreed. So he'll probably change that next year, but we'll see, we'll wait and see. But I mean, yeah, I was happy as a sole trader. It's the potential of whether you can sleep at night knowing that if someone were to see you, they were to see you as a person rather than a business. Basically it. But if I hadn't met him, I'd probably still be a sole trader now, to be honest. So, right, go back to sharing, because it's already 11:35 and I've been talking clearly quite a lot. Why can't I share my screen? There it is. Okay. So 10 ways to find clients. First thing you absolutely must do, and I noticed that Diane's done this recently because I'm connected with her on Facebook. You've got to go public. You can do it on Facebook, you can do it wherever you like, but you've got to go public. You've got to tell people what it is you're doing. That is one of the biggest hurdles, is to say, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am, this is who I want to help, and this is what you can do for me if you're willing to help me. And ultimately, you've got the really important thing is to say, this is what I want from you. And that is basically, if you come up against anyone in your life who you know is struggling with their mental health, mention me, put them in touch, drop them my details and let them get in touch with me, or get them to mention you to that person. So I know someone who might be able to help you with that. Would you like their details? That is literally it. But it's so easy to go half the way and go, hi, I'm a qualified counsellor, I'm really excited, I've been training for all of this time, and not ask for referrals. And asking for the referrals bit is the most important bit, but the bit that we don't do because it's scary, ultimately. In my probably my first week, I think I mentioned it to a couple of people and I got a client off the back of it. I was quite lucky. It's not always that quick, but you do need to tell people what you're doing, because you might, if you think about it, if somebody said to you, I've set up a business selling carpets, you'd be like, oh, brilliant, good for you. And you wouldn't think to do anything about it. But if somebody said to you, I've set up a business, I'm going to be selling carpets, if you know anyone who wants a new carpet, will you put them in touch with me? It's that bit, because then it's clear in your mind that if somebody else says to you, and I say carpets because I'm literally about to have my carpets laid, which I'm very excited about. But after 13 years of living with horrible carpets, if you don't do that final bit, people are going to be like, oh, brilliant, they run a carpet company, they've obviously got loads of clients, they don't need to ask for any help. And it's the same thing. You have to ask people for referrals. Friends, family, they'll know you've been studying anyway, but tell them what it is you need and ask them to put your name out there for you. Be as specific as you can. So if you've chosen to work with a certain type of client or a certain type of presentation, tell them that once. You don't have to go into the ins and outs of it and the types of problems that they might be facing, etc., etc. Be specific and be kind of speedy and to the point about it. And then just say, look, if you come across anyone, just drop them my email, drop them my details, or get them to connect with me on social media, and then move the conversation on. The Facebook post is a really important one. Many of us are on Facebook, although I'm questioning coming off it actually after the irritation I had about Facebook Live yesterday. But I put my post on Facebook. I got 3 private messages within about 48 hours. One of those turned into a client. It's not bad odds. It's worth doing. And that client is still with me now, a year and a half on. So it's worth doing. Directories, there's loads. The two biggest ones, unless you're like with BACP, I'm not registered with the BACP, but I mean, mine is on the NCPS, which is my membership body, but not that anyone has ever contacted me through that. The two directories really that people know about and people look at are Psychology Today and the Counselling Directory. Psychology Today gives you 6 months free when you sign up to it, and then I think it's about 20 quid a month after that. So it's worth a punt for 6 months. Set up a profile and see what happens. You can always cancel it. I think I had nothing in my first 6 months from Psychology Today, and so I cancelled it, and they'd already charged me for my first payment, and I just went to them and said, look, I want to cancel it, or I have cancelled it, can you refund me that money? And they did, so that was easy. But I then since have gone back onto Psychology Today, and that's where most of my online referrals come from. Counselling Directory, you can get 3 months if you get codes, and there's always codes being bandied around on like Facebook groups and things like that. Or ask anyone who you trained with, because someone will be on the Counselling Directory. They'll have a code. People love to share their codes because it means you get a month free, but it means they get a month free as well. If you sign up for a year, you get that first month free, and then after that you're paying. But I did it for a year just because it was worth a punt. It was like 120 quid for the year, and I get quite a few referrals through that as well. Moving on, there's nothing wrong with old school advertising. Flyers are so cheap to create. You can create them on a free account on Canva. You can print them. I don't even know whether you can print them through Canva, but if not, you can download them and you can just send them to a printing company. They're so cheap to print. Get a load of flyers through, as long as you've got like your name on it, your contact details, probably a photo. I don't think I'd trust anyone that didn't have a photo on it, especially if I'm going to be talking to them face to face. They're worth putting around in your local area. You can literally put them in like social clubs. Do social clubs still exist? Village halls, supermarkets, doctors' surgeries. Doctors' surgeries, if they'll let you. This can be a slightly queried one. It's not something I've done, is put them in doctors' surgeries, but loads of people do have success with that. Sometimes doctors' surgeries won't want to be affiliated with a specific counsellor. So go and ask. The worst they can say is no, ultimately. But it'll cost you pennies, and it's a really easy way to, and cafes as well is another one. Anywhere there's a notice board, just ask them to put it up, and you just never know what's going to happen. It doesn't really cost you anything apart from like quite cheap printing. And it will seem less daunting for them if they do have a photo of you on that, because they'll just be able to see a friendly face and somebody smiling, and it might be like, I don't know, somebody who's just lonely and wants to come and talk to somebody. Never know. Networking events, I've always hated networking events. They do my head in. I can't stand them. Love them or hate them, they are worth a mention. It's a great way to get your name out there in your local area. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't like the idea of standing up and talking to someone for a minute, or talking to like a room full of people for a minute. This is far more my vibe than a networking event. Having said that, I have really recently joined one, and I joined one at the very, very beginning. So no one had ever met each other. And I walked in and I went, I hate networking events. How can we make this one different? And we meet once a month. It's totally free. There's no like, you've got to pay 15 quid for a breakfast and all of, there's none of that crap. I literally show up, I buy a coffee for 3 quid. I have a nice chat with people. I talk to them about what I'm doing. They talk to me about what they're doing, and then we all leave each other to it for another month. That's my kind of networking. Social media. You've got to think about social media as, how can I add value to the people who are reading this? It's a controversial one, social media, because how do you exist on social media when you can't talk about your clients, for one, specifically, because we're all working with confidentiality, but also how can you advertise yourself as a counsellor online without your potential clients finding out too much about you. So it's a really odd one, this, and you've got to be quite careful about it. But ultimately, people do really, really well on social media. My advice to you: choose one platform, literally just one. If it happens to copy to if they're all connected and it happens to copy to the other ones, fine. Although if you're going to be on more than one platform, you kind of want to change it up a bit in terms of what you're offering, and then it becomes a full-time job and not one that I would want to do. But that's just me. So I have a social media person who does some stuff for me, because I'm not a massive fan of social media. She does all my LinkedIn because I don't understand LinkedIn. I do Facebook, and Instagram. Sometimes I post, like, an image every so often, but I'm not a massive social media fan. And also, for me, my clients don't come through it. This is what I was talking about knowing your numbers. I don't hang out much on social media because I don't get my clients through social media. I get my clients through referrals and directories. That's literally it. So that's where I spend my time. And ultimately, if you've got a good directory profile, you don't need to change it that often. People will just find you and come to you, but you do need to be patient with that one. It won't happen overnight because there is an influx of people. There's loads of them. One thing on that, actually, with the directory, I've had 2 clients who've come to me via Psychology Today who said that they've come to me because I put a video on there. It's like a 30-second video. My hair's really different, and I probably need, actually, I think I might be wearing the same top as I am right now. But they came to me because I put a video on, and they wanted to see how I talked and what I sounded like. And that made them decide, for some stupid reason, that they wanted to come and work with me, which was lovely. But it's interesting that was their deciding factor. So if you can be bold enough to literally, all I say on it is, "Hi, I'm Jill. I live in the centre of Tunbridge Wells. This is the kind of counsellor I am. If you want to work with me, get in contact." I think that's literally it. And I did it on like one take and just posted it. If you can do that, be bold about it, you might find that similar things sort of happen. It's quite interesting. I put website on here. But do you know what? It's interesting. It's the only one. No, it's not. The Talks Groups Guest Podcast doesn't have a little thing underneath it either, the text underneath it. You don't need a website. You literally don't need a website. I have a website now. I didn't when I started. I built it myself. It's not particularly exciting. It's not amazing. It's got enough information on there, and that's that. I built mine through Wix because it made the most sense to me, like in terms of the way it worked. You don't need a website. What you could do instead of a website, especially for now, is you could set up a link tree. So like if that connects any of your social media sites onto it, or you could have a Milkshake, which is like a mini website without actually having to have a fully blown website, where all it's got is your contact details on it and I don't know, a photo of you and what you offer and who you offer it to, and that's literally it. And you can do that fairly cheaply. You don't need a website. Nobody cares. Although the one thing I would say is, if you're going to have a web presence, have a Google profile so that people in your local area can find you. I do have a client who found me via my Google profile. Again, it's really easy to set up. Or alternatively, the other thing you do is you get a holding page, and you pay for a holding page for now, and you just have one page up that will do until you feel like you've got something that you want to say on a website, essentially. It's costly, especially if you're getting a graphic designer involved, and it's not necessary. People will choose you based on, a lot of the time, sadly, they will choose you on the way you look. They will choose you on the way you look. can I sit and talk to this person every week for 50 minutes? Essentially is what they want to know. And do they have a style that I like? That's basically it. You've then got EAPs, employee assistance programs. There's like Health Assured, there's TELUS Health, there's MindWorks, there's ComSite, there's AXA EAP, there's PAM Wellbeing, there's loads of different ones. I've never done any of them. I haven't needed to. You can. I think there might be challenges with, like, you need to have been working for this long, or you need to have this many hours, you need to have been qualified for this many years. There might be something to do with that. There definitely are with the health insurance providers. It's worth looking into, but it's a way of kind of bumping up your income if you need to, whilst you're trying to build your private practice and clients coming direct to you. Interestingly, when I started as a coach, I started working with as an associate coach. So it's basically the same kind of thing, as an associate coach for a neurodiverse organisation near where I live. And that bolstered my income for quite a long time. I'm actually just closing that down at the moment. But it means that you don't have to market yourself, and they just give you clients. So if you can get in with one of those, brilliant. The health insurance providers, again, some to look at are like Bupa. You've got AXA Insurance, which is different to AXA EAP. They're two different things. You've got Aviva, and then you've got Nuffield as well. There's four, but they will often look for 3 years worth of qualification. Another way you can get yourself out there is to do talks or guest on podcasts. There's loads of like Facebook groups where you can click on it, like join a group where you can guest podcast. And if you've got some information that is useful to somebody else, you can put your hand up and say, I can talk about this. Start guest podcasting, and make sure that whoever's running the podcast, whoever's hosting it, is willing to put your social media accounts at the bottom of that podcast, so that people can click on you. And you can, it's about getting yourself out there in as many ways as possible. You can do talks like WI, for instance, it's massive in my area. It became massive a few years ago with the new WI, and then it all kind of fell off a bit, and now it seems to be having a bit of a resurgence again. Put yourself up there to say, yeah, I can talk about mental health, or I can talk about like whatever, domestic violence, I could probably talk for hours about, or perinatal mental health, which is what I have volunteered in. There's loads of different things that you can talk about. You might not realise that you know more than some other people on that, but if you just put your hand up and you give it a real thought, you actually know more than you think you know on all of these things. Which goes back to slide 1, where I was like, you already know enough. I promise you, you already know enough. So, moving on, removing low income months. This is where I was talking, actually, do you know what? I'm going to have a cup of tea, sip of my tea for a minute. This is what I was talking about the beginning, about knowing your numbers.
Might this be a good chance for people to ask questions, Jill, if any of us have any, or have you got questions at the end?
I do have questions. You were slightly late on joining us, Paul. I was doing questions.
Sorry.
Do you have a burning question that you want to know right now?
No. I just, it's fine. I'll shut up.
I hear what you're saying about the counselling directory not accepting trainees onto their register. Literally, I think I qualified and I sent in my application to upgrade I'm thinking about the NCPS here. Yeah, so I did that. I upgraded from a trainee on the NCPS up to being a qualified, what do you call it? Accredited registrant, I think they call it on the NCPS. And that took like 2 weeks, and then I joined the counselling directory. So that happened pretty much instantly. It was so quick. And with Psychology Today, you're absolutely bang on. But hopefully, It's interesting. I'm trying to think. So that must have been, I was probably about 6 months into my private practice by the time I even created directory profiles.
Psychology Today will accept if you're listed as a trainee with UKCP, Psychology Today will accept that, but not students. But a trainee UKCP profile, you can be listed with Psychology Today.
Presumably your RTE needs to be UKCP registered.
Not necessarily. Your RTE, my RTE is UCARTA and UKCP, but UCARTA is an organisational member of UKCP. So through it, not necessarily is the short answer. A bit of a minefield, all of this, isn't it?
It can be, yeah. It can be. It can be a challenge, and also I don't know about you guys, but all of the acronyms kind of take me over, and I lose my will to live on that sometimes. Do we have any more questions before I continue? I'm not going to hit the hour, am I? Not by a long shot. Diane, do you have a question?
I do. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. I do have a question. I've got my mindset right to go straight into private practice, even though I've only just qualified a couple of months ago. And then I did a phone call with a new supervisor that I am going to go with, and she was quite shocked that I was going straight into it. She was quite shocked, and that sort of made me have a bit of a wobble.
Did you ask her why she was shocked?
No, I didn't sort of want to go down there, and I sounded very confident and said, oh yeah, well, I've been doing Reiki healing for 3 years and I've got it all set up already in my garden and blah, blah, blah. So but afterwards I thought, oh God, what does everybody else think? But I had no one else there to ask. So is it coming on here? I thought it might be a good question to ask. I've been lucky enough that my placement clients, the placement was happy for me to take them on if they wanted to, and I've taken them on. They've all wanted to stay with me. So I sort of feel like I'm doing it. But then she's made me feel like, oh, that's unusual. I wouldn't normally advise that. So I'm like, and I've now feel like I've got everything in place. I've done my own contract and all the rest of it. So I feel I've worked really hard to get everything in place. I feel like I've got it. And she's made me, I've gone back a sort of a couple of steps in my head, even though I'm not showing that to clients or anything. So that's my question.
Does anyone want to answer?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Hi, Diane. When I was looking for a supervisor, I was like you. I've had a coaching business, and done a lot of things with it on the side. So there was a lot of setup, a lot of infrastructural setup, and I wanted to go into private practice. And I was interviewing supervisors, and I did come across one supervisor that had that exact response. Oh, well, I wouldn't recommend that. And I thought, right, well, this is what I want to do. And I found a supervisor that said, yes, I'm on board with that, and I can encourage you in this. So I think listening to what you're saying, I know plenty of people that have done what you are doing, what I have done, am doing, and they go into private practice. Lots of people do that, and some people don't. My suspicion is that your supervisor didn't, and so probably finds your process a little bit, oh, she's probably projecting something there. Okay. But if you're happy with them other than that, great. But I personally would want to find a supervisor that gets behind where I'm going and is going to work with me on that. But there we are.
Okay. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to add. Yes, please go on, Annabelle.
Hey, yeah, I was going to say kind of music to my ears hearing that, because I think there is quite a lot of fear mongering around about setting up private practice. And I think even with like a lot of the different training courses, there's certainly my training course where I am, that my tutors are very like, oh, it's going to take so long, and are you sure, and all this kind of thing. And then other training courses not so. And some supervisors are really supportive, some supervisors are like, oh, they're not doing it. And like you said before, is it their own stuff and all that kind of, yeah, this fear mongering I think is quite interesting. I think whenever this fear thing comes up, I think there's always something behind that. But what's helped me with that, because it kind of wobbled me for a while, and what's helped me with that is just kind of mixing where I do my placement, mixing with people who are kind of a bit ahead, and obviously these kind of sessions and with people that are doing this successfully, and actually seeing the real deal, seeing people go through the process and what that looks like. Because I think there's a lot of other noise. So that kind of helps to ground me. People that are actually doing it and have done it, and you know what I mean? It kind of speaks for itself. So I think it's that balance, isn't it, between kind of being very realistic about the fact that it's not going to happen straight away, and knowing that, and that you need to put, you know, a lot into it and try different strategies. But yeah, I've had a lot of that from my training course, this fear mongering. And you get to the point where you just go, no, I'm going to do it my own way, and you know, you've got to go out there and get it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk on that because it was a huge thing that was making me wobble for ages. You get to the point you think, well, what am I doing this training for? You know.
This is the thing. We train for so long, and then you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, there aren't many jobs out there that I can go into. So what is the alternative? If there aren't that many jobs and they're not particularly well paid, and you're not supposed to go into private practice straight away, what are you supposed to do? So I mean, there's literally no reason for you not to start in private practice. And it's your choice to do it in the way that you want to. And your private practice will be different from anyone else's. Essentially, they'll be the same, but we'll all have unique businesses by the end of this. You've got to do it in a way that works for you and build it up in a way that feels sustainable for you as well is really important, rather than taking on too much too soon or not being brave enough. You know, you've got to do things at your own pace, but you're not doing anything wrong by setting up a private practice straight after qualifying. I started before I qualified. As soon as I was allowed, I set up my private practice. I wasn't yet qualified. And I told all of my clients that were coming into my business, I said, I'm not qualified yet. I've got this many hours under my belt. And they were like, I don't care. As long as you can do the job, which I knew I could do, literally no one cared.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. I was just trying to find the reason why I shouldn't. All the other students were the same. They were all very much, I was lucky with our college. They encouraged you to do that if that's the route you wanted to take. But all the other students like, oh my God, no, I'm waiting. I understood where they were coming from. It was just somebody, that in authority bit, that sort of said that. And I was like, oh, God, I can't find the reason. Let me go away and look at this. And I couldn't find a reason because I've got everything else set up. So yeah, so thank you. That's helped. Yeah.
Remember, back to the first slide, you already know enough to make a start.
Yeah, that's why I was pleased to see your slide. I straight away thought, oh, I need to ask this. I think I'm in the right place to ask this.
Fine. Crack on. There's nothing stopping you.
Okay.
What more do you need to feel like you're okay to start?
Yeah.
What else is there? Any other questions for now, or shall I carry on? By the way, if anyone needs to leave, because I'm well aware that I'm over time already, that's absolutely fine. And thank you for being here. But otherwise, I shall continue. I don't think we've got too much more left. So, yeah. Thinking back to low income months, because you will get them. I find my low income months, unsurprisingly, are summer because I take some time off, and Christmas because I take some time off. They're my lower income months. Surprise, surprise. And they are quieter as well because people are either on holiday, and so you'd get less clients into your business, or at Christmas, people will often cancel more because Christmas is a busy time of year. And as long as you go in with the expectation of those things, it's all right. So I know that August and December are two slower times of year. Consequently, January and September are massively busy for me. Weirdly, this July has been really busy. I've had about 8 queries in a week this July. It's in the first week of July. It was really weird. I don't know quite what was going on, but it was just, I've never had that before, but it was just chance. The more specific you can be about the clients that you want to drive into your business, the better you will be, because you will make yourself really easily referable. So if you can focus on who you're helping or who you're wanting to help in your marketing, and then also when you're having conversations with people, you will make yourself more easily referable. If you look at the competition around you, because there is a fair amount of competition around. I can't believe these roofers are still here. But if you look at your competition, how can you make yourself stand out? How can you offer something different? Connecting with other counsellors, don't underestimate that. You don't have to see them as your competition, because they will be different than you. They will attract different people to you into their businesses. And if you can connect with them and say to ask them again for referrals, say, these are the types of clients I want. If someone comes to you, you don't feel like you can work with them because of whatever, would you consider referring me? And they'll and say, I'm happy to reciprocate. It's so easy. It's a quick conversation. But if you don't have it, they won't necessarily think about the fact that you might be needing clients. It's also really important for you to understand what kind of marketing makes a difference to your business, and then do more of that. So if you find that you get lots of people who call you and say, oh, I found your flyer in blah, 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 wherever, print out some more flyers and spend some time doing a flyer drop. I was coaching a woman who was a physio a couple of years ago, and she was coming out of the NHS and she was just setting up her own private physio business. And she got so many clients off, I know it's completely different, but she got so many clients off the back of doing a flyer drop. It was like proper old school stuff, but it still works. And people just put it up on their fridge and they don't think about it for years. And then suddenly they've got a memory of, hang on a minute, there's a person here that I might need in my life. And they'll call you. Anyway, that's by the by. But have more conversations with people. Conversations lead to clients. You could run workshops like I'm doing here, collaborate with others in some way, like I've said about guest podcasting. And as I mentioned before, and I cannot stress this enough, if you're going to choose one social media platform, if you're going to choose social media as part of your marketing strategy, choose one marketing channel. Don't dilute yourself. I guarantee if you try and run like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, blah, you won't do any of them very well. I've been there. I've done it. I honestly, don't try and sell yourself short, because it'll feel too overwhelming and you won't end up doing any social media, if anything. That's why I pass it off to someone else, because I can't stand it myself. But I realize it's important at the same time. In terms of your first year, I think this is really important. I did a YouTube video on this. In terms of your first year, you're going to have instability. You almost need to expect it to come. It's not just going to, like, clients aren't just going to like flow through your door and stay with you for the first year and beyond. People will come and go. You will have peaks and troughs. Then if you can go into that expecting that, you're going to feel so much better about it when it actually happens. When you're quiet, what value can you add? Can you start writing a blog, for instance? Can you add some value somewhere so that you know you're getting yourself out there, but in a different way, so that you're not quiet, but you're still working on your business and you're being creative with what you're doing without sort of sitting there waiting for clients to kind of just roll through your door and get in contact? Because if you distract yourself by doing other things that have the opportunity to attract clients into your business and get your name out there, all well and good. It's going to feel a lot like hard work. And it is going to feel a lot like hard work, because more than any subsequent year, you're going to be spending more time on admin, because you're going to be creating the things that you need to run in your business. Like I've created like Gantt charts and Gantt charts. I mean, that's like past world, but you'll need to be setting up a lot of documents. You've got counselling agreements, you've got invoices that you're working. You might have invoicing to like a charity that you might be working with, or like EAPs or refuges. You've got privacy policies, obviously your insurance documents, maybe your website, directory profiles, all of this stuff. Don't try and do it all at once. Keep it simple. You could start working only online, advertise with one directory, get your business insurance, register with your ICO, set up as a sole trader, and just keep it really, really simple to try and make it less like hard work. You're going to experience a lot of imposter syndrome. I would put money on it. I'd be really surprised if you don't. We all feel it. It's scary putting your head above that parapet for the first time and going, hi, I'm doing this. This is actually what I'm doing, and I'm here to stay. It's a really scary place to be. And when everything's new and you don't feel like you belong in it, it's even more scary. You're gonna get it with your first client coming to your house. You know, you're probably gonna spend an hour sort of setting it all up so that it all looks really nice before you even arrive they arrive for their first session. All of it's gonna give you imposter syndrome. So if you just expect it to happen, you accept it as part of the process, you're gonna feel so much better about it when it actually shows up. You're gonna ask yourself or tell yourself it's not working. You're gonna think it a lot. In your first year, you'll have days where you'll wake up and think, what the hell am I doing? Is this ever going to work? Am I ever going to make enough money? What's it all for? How long does it take? You need to find a bit of grit. This is where grit comes in, some sort of smelly determination that it's all going to be worth it. You've just got to kind of have that grit and belief that it's going to be okay. No one can give that to you. You've got to find it for yourself, I'm afraid. Having a good support network is really useful, especially peer support. If you've got like counsellors that you trained with, keep them close to you. Tell them that you're finding it hard. Tell them they're finding it hard. They're probably finding it just as hard. It's just that nobody talks about it because we're all supposed to be doing fine. That somebody else that you talk to will be in a similar situation. It took me less than a year to consider that it was working. I'd have been fairly confident by sort of month 3 that I was all right and that this was going to sort of find a way to figure itself out. And it still peaked and troughed for the first year, if not longer. I mean, I still have it. It's just I've come to accept it as part of the business. You want to tweak. You want to be flexible rather than being rigid and being like, right, all done and dusted. My website's fine. My agreement's fine. This and that and the other. You want to stay quite flexible with it. So if you notice, I don't know, that your counselling directory, that your counselling directory profile, for instance, doesn't get you anything, and you're paying for the subscription to that, you might choose to tweak your profile and see month on month whether it makes any difference. That's, again, that brings into that time that you're spending on your business, not just with your clients. So you might want to tweak your pricing, like I mentioned earlier, your payment terms, your social media platforms. You could spend a year on one social media platform and see how many clients it brings in, and then you could spend another year on a completely different one and see how many clients it brings in. And just everything's a bit of an experimentation for a while, and you kind of have to give it a little bit of time to actually have some form of effect. If you can chuck some analysis in there, brilliant. I personally write everything down. I'm a big kind of spreadsheet sort of person, and so I note everything down. But that's where the sort of conversions and how long clients stay with you and stuff like that comes from. But by far, for me, the best marketing tool I have is my network, and I work at that. I nourish it well. I refer clients to other counsellors. I ask them to do the same with me. If I feel like a client isn't quite right, but in the early part of your business, you'll probably want to take, I imagine, because I was like this, I wanted to take on all the clients that came to me. And I realized quite quickly that that wasn't the best idea. And that sometimes you can have a conversation with someone, you're like, oh, I know the exact counsellor who'd be brilliant for you. Refer it on. If it doesn't feel quite right, it's okay. Another one will come, and refer on, and then say, I'm referring this on. Would you reciprocate that? It's nurturing that. I can't overestimate how important it is. Within the first year, I also increased my price. I increased my hourly rate. No one batted an eyelid. I literally told them like 2 months before that I was going to be increasing my my rate, and no one batting an eyelid. I've then increased it again since, just for new clients. So actually I have different clients at different rates now, which I think is quite normal. But I've only increased it for clients that I'm taking on, and I'm still having no difficulty getting clients into my business. Show up consistently. This is one I need to heed my own advice on, because I am inconsistent. I'm inconsistent with my social media. I have a little post-it here that says exactly how often I should be. It's literally like right next to my desk. How often I should be showing up and posting, like on social media and things like that. I don't do it. I don't do it as often as I should. I'd still do it. I just don't do it as often as I'd like to. So there's always another blog post to write. There's always more notes to write up. There's always more tweaks to be made, but you've got to make it non-negotiable. So I run my business like I'm in a PAYE job. So morning to afternoon, when I know that I'm supposed to be at work, I am sitting here, whether I'm with a client or not, I am sitting at my computer and I am doing something that is working on my business, and I treat it like a job, because essentially it is my job. This is my career. This is my own business, and no one else, nothing is going to get done if I don't do it. So you have to take it seriously. You have to be the business owner of this really super successful business that you think you're going to have in like 2 or 3 years' time. Be that person now and show up consistently and do the work now, and it will pay off in time. You want to keep an eye on your competitors, but not too much, because you want to be really careful about comparing yourself to other people. But you want to learn from them, like what is working for them? Where are they advertising? How much are they charging? What can you learn from the way they're doing things? If they look more successful, why is it they look more successful? Are they more successful, or is it just a face that they put on? You need to remove the emotion from that and not thinking about it like, am I good enough, or I'm not good enough, or they're better than me, and just put yourself in a learning state of, how can I use this information to propel myself forward, and stay curious with it. You know, we're in a business of being curious. Keep an eye on competitors and be curious about what they're doing, but they are not you. You are different, and they don't have to be considered the competition. You also need to find a balance. I have a really good work-life balance at the moment. I spend time in my business. I spend time out of my business. I also have 2 teenagers and a house to run, blah, blah. You have to find a balance. I got 2 dogs who need walking every day, so it's kind of inexcusable. I have to take them out, and I love that. But we have to practice what we preach, right? You know, I'm sure we all talk to our clients about finding balance in their lives and boundaries and self-care. We need to make sure that we're doing it as well. Super, super important. And the earlier you can find that balance in your business, the better. So I close the door on my office at 4 o'clock every day, and I don't go back into it. Again, I'm quite lucky that I have it here, and it's a separate room in my house that nobody else ever goes in. But any way you can find to shut it off at the end of the day and not go back to it is good, because then you're at least you're making good habits for the future. So you want to get clear. You want to get clear on your vision. What do you want your business to be? Do you want it to be like a 1 day a week private practice just to supplement your other income? That's fine if that's what you want. Or do you want it to be a full-time private practice and you're going to take on a load of clients? If there's no right or wrong answer. You've got to do what works for you. I wanted my private practice to be run alongside a PAYE role in the same sector, so that I could marry the 2 together, and I had a bit of bread and butter, but a bit of creativity, a bit of time to myself, a bit of time to, and I'm managing to create that now. Everyone's got a different vision, and that's okay. It's just a question of being really clear on what you need your business to be doing and how you want to run it, what time you have. You also want to be clear on your boundaries, as I was just talking about. You need to get out there. You need to get disciplined. And you need to be patient, consistent, persistent. Really, really, really. So my top tips. We're nearly there. Get visible. Put yourself out there, because you're not going to get anywhere if nobody knows what it is you're doing. Manage your mindset around it. I cannot stress that enough. You need to get out of the learning zone. If you think you're running a business by doing more and more and more CPD, you're not. You're just continuing to learn. You've got to get out of the learning zone and make stuff happen. Stop worrying about the little details. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be making a start. Don't overanalyze it too soon. Don't have that mindset of that's it. I can't change it. I can't do anything different. This is never going to work. Don't do that too soon. Do all the tweaking and all the other stuff that I've mentioned first, before you come to the conclusion that this is not going to work. And the last one is just fucking do it. It's not going to be perfect. Just get on with it. Just make a start. And you'll be surprised how quickly it starts to, the wheel starts to churn. So I'm going to mention this ever so quickly. I really don't want to spend time on this because this isn't what this is about. But if you do want more help and more support, I do run a 6-week program called the Flourishing Therapist Net Framework, which I created for exactly this reason. And it's a self-paced thing. So it's like a mixture of recorded trainings. You get a workbook that you fill in, which gives you kind of sort of a, not business in a box, but a business in a workbook by the end of it. And then it incorporates live group coaching calls every fortnight as well, so that you actually end up like building a community with the people that you're doing it with. So that's on, I currently sell that at £600 for the 6-week program. It's half price for 72 hours. If anyone wants some extra like personalized support, and it's half price until Friday, this Friday at midday. Just send me an email if you want to know more with the title TFTF. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is I have an admin pack that you can also buy, which basically gives you like a Google Drive templates of a profit and loss spreadsheet where all of the formulas are all done for you. You just need to input the information. An invoice template, a weekly diary template, a contract template, and an initial assessment template as well that you can tweak, just to try and make it as easy as possible, because there's some people who struggle a little bit more with the admin, and I was starting to get people sort of saying, "Oh, can I have that? Can you give me all of that?" all of that? So I've created it as a sort of downloadable like pack of information, and that is £99 as well today. But other than that, if you want to stay in touch with me, I do have a YouTube channel. It's Home of Eunoia with underscores in between the 3 words. And I also have a Facebook group, which I think a lot of you might be part of anyway, which is called Newly Qualified Counsellors in Private Practice. So it trips off the tongue. And then I have my website, and you can find me on socials from there as well. But really, that is that. So if I'm going to stop sharing, and if anyone has any more questions or anything they'd like to say, now's time.
I just want to say thank you so much, because like yesterday I was just having this big massive wobble of a breakdown, thinking what the hell am I doing, what's the next steps, and so it's just today I feel like it's a different day and just clarified lots of points. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Very welcome. You're very, very welcome. As I say, my YouTube channel, I've tried to record as and when I've been sort of setting things up. I've been trying to record like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how could it be useful for somebody else? So if nothing else, actually, it's all on my website as well. It's all embedded in there. So, you know, if in doubt, chuck it on. And if I haven't done something and you have a question and you're like, Jill, can you record a YouTube video on this? just ask, and I'll see if I can create one, or at least a blog post anyway.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and good luck with it. I don't think you'll regret it. I really don't think you'll regret it. It's been it's been insane the last couple of years in doing this, and it's a whole different world. But you've got to get used to taking your therapist hat on and putting a business hat on and saying, no, I need to make money from this as well. It's literally the biggest step, I would say. It's the hardest one. Annabelle.
Scariest one, isn't it? It's a scary step.
It is really scary.
As you say, all that time you've invested, you've got to do it, haven't you? You've got to jump, take that leap of faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry to butt in. I've got to run. But just wanted to say thank you so much. Lovely to see you again, Jill.
It's good to see you too, Natalie. Take care.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Annabelle, did you have a question?
Quick question? Yeah. I'm just about to qualify from level 4, and my training course has said that apparently we need to have, I think it's them just doing the money making thing, that we need to have further training with a couple of days on specific assessment training. Otherwise, you're not fully covered by your insurance. So I've told this to my supervisor, who's really been qualified for many, 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 many years, quite well known. He's like, it's absolute bollocks, you don't need that. But of course it rings those kind of alarm bells in you. So yeah, I just wondered whether you've come across this before. Yeah,
I really haven't. If you feel like you need more help with initial assessments, then sure, go and find it. There'll be someone out there who is it your college that do they?
Yeah, so they're doing these 2 extra Saturdays, but it's the whole thing is you're actually not fully covered by insurance unless you have this specific, and I just can't find it anywhere.
Have you chosen an insurance provider at the minute? Have you got one?
What's that? Sorry. Yes, I'm with Holistic.
Have you called them?
Yeah, I will do. It's only just kind of come up. So yeah, but I just wondered whether you had anybody or anybody else. This is the thing. Yeah.
At level 4, you are absolutely permitted to start up your private practice. There is nothing stopping you. And there's no one who can tell you that it's the wrong thing to do either, because it's not a regulated industry, so you're not actually doing anything wrong.
I just wondered where this had come from. It's all very but yeah. As you said, I might go just because it might be useful, but at the same time I've got this kind of doubt.
I've never done the assessment training. You get used to doing assessments as you go through. I think it's something that I've tweaked as I go through now. And I used to have a script that I worked with, because I was like, I've got to make sure I remember to ask this. And I don't have that anymore. I've got an assessment form that I have online that I ask, that's on my website, that I give people the link to and ask them to fill it in. But other than that, when I have a chat with people, which sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, some people want an initial chat with you, and some people just want to show up on the session. And I don't really mind which way that goes, as long as I have that assessment form so I know what they're struggling with. I don't really mind whether I've spoken to them or not. It's really their choice. But if you feel confident with what you're going to be asking for before you meet somebody, all well and good. And if you feel safe enough for them to just show up, again, all well and good.
Have you got a supervisor, Annabelle?
Yeah, I do. So I've spoken to my supervisor about this, and it's something I just mentioned. They were like, it's not true. I've spoken to where I do my placement, which is in hospice. I've spoken to several people in the counselling, and they were like, it's not true. it's all part of this scaremongering bit. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you know, and it's a money making, yeah. Anyway, so it's yeah, you know, you think you're finished, and then it's like, oh, and you should go, and if you're going to do private practice, then actually you do need this, but and it's like I don't even know where it's come from. It's terrible, but yeah.
As long as you've got a certificate saying yes, I've got my level 4, or your training establishment has said, yeah, I'm happy for you to start, crack on.
Yeah.
I've never heard that you need that, no, and I haven't done it, so
yeah.
I could be doing something completely wrong as well, but no, essentially.
Who's going to ever know anyway? Because no one asks, do they? This is
Very
the
good
big
point,
of it all. Like,
Yeah.
they're telling you to jump through so many hoops, but who needs to jump through those hoops?
I know. So I think they're putting this in the pot of like, oh, if something happens and someone sues you and you haven't done the assessment, it's like, yeah.
Interesting.
Anyone else? Or after now 90 minutes, do you know what? My social media woman, she said to me, you're going to take 90 minutes on this. I was like, no, I haven't done it in 60. Thank you for sticking with me. What did you say?
I could have told you that.
I just
Thanks,
like
I'm going to have to leave.
Okay.
Nice to meet you all. Good luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
If everyone's asked their questions, then it's been really nice to see you all, and we can stop there. But thanks for coming out. Oh, she's gone.
I just wanted to quickly say thank you for today. It made me feel a bit more prepared going through the before seeing a client bit. So I wrote it all down, and I realised that I've already done it all. I just put myself live a couple of days ago on like counselling directories and a website. So imposter syndrome is really kicking in. But it was really nice just going over it again and kind of hearing that I've done the steps that I need to take. So I just want to say thank you.
You're very welcome, and I wish you were it. Again, all I needed to do was that first slide of you already know enough. You've already done it. You know what you're doing. You've just got to make that leap.
Thank you.
I wish you
Oh, thanks so much. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.